All right, so Bitcoin right now is approaching its all-time high. It has gotten a move up to the high of the range. We have taken out some of that liquidity that I pointed out in my last video, and I want to make an update here. Want to go through some analysis, take a look at Market Cipher, and I am right now in a short trade from this area. I want to go over my reasonings for that. I so far have only taken like a starting position on this. It's about half the risk that I'm looking to take. If I get further confirmations and if I get a chance to add to the trade, then I will pretty much double the size or at least double the risk, depending on where I get a chance to re-enter. So I want to go over my reasonings for this short trade as well. So first off, let's do some adjustments to this chart. We can fix the fixed range pull it up to current price. And number one, while we are not taking out the all-time high quite yet, we are very close to it, and I'm sure a lot of people are expecting a move up to all-time highs, and I too think it's possible, but I also think that maybe it's possible we get a reversal prior to taking out the all-time high. We came up and pretty much took out the value area high back here. I don't know if the value area high was the same back in this area. But yeah, at least with that pull it is. So, we deviated the value area high once already, got a reversal from that. Yeah, I guess, even back here, we got to move above it, found some support on it, but then as you adjust it, the value area high moves up. Point of control moved up. Once we lost that, we got a rotation back down towards the value area low. And just in general, we are at the high end of this larger range. We're much closer to the high than we are to the low. This is the general area where, I would definitely prioritize shorts over longs. Like, I'm not really looking for longs in this area unless it's like, very low time frame context, like I'm, scalping the low end of a local range and looking to TP at the high end. But I'm not in any longs right now. I actually saw some confirmations for a short. So that is the fixed range pull. Another thing I want to mention is, the triangle guys are all looking at this. We have a triangle forming. You can argue it looks something like this. Basically, since we started forming this range, we've been putting in lower highs and higher lows, basically forming this, triangle shape. And what do we know about these triangles? Well, they love to basically bait people that trade breakouts of triangles. Oftentimes, you'll see that a triangle will break one direction before reversing the other way. We actually saw a great example of that over here. And let me pull up the MEXC chart to make sure I have the right area. And yeah, this is a great example right here. We got to move right out of the top end of the triangle before immediately reversing and getting a very aggressive move to the downside. And I'm sure there's a decent amount of people that clicked the long button right in this area as soon as we were breaking out, as soon as we, closed a couple candles up in this area. And yeah, they were pretty much immediately taken out, or at least were immediately underwater. And so, you see examples of this all the time where a triangle will basically fake out one direction before reversing the other way. So potentially we may see that now on a higher time frame. This last example was within the larger triangle. And I'm sure, just like with this example right here, I'm sure there's a lot of people that think, oh, because we broke this triangle to the upside, now we definitely have to come to at least all-time highs, right? That makes sense. Sure, that's what people were thinking in this area as well, and, well, that backfired on them. And, I just like using this as kind of extra confluence. I wouldn't have shorted here just because we have a triangle and I think that is going to get faked out. I want to look for other reasons and kind of build a case for that. I will say there are some conflicting signs. Like, just looking at this 4 hour right here, there's no signs of weakness on Market Cipher. Money flow putting in higher highs, momentum putting in higher highs. It got above the 60 line. Granted, we just printed a red dot, so that could mean a retracement. But, potentially that retracement only brings us down to like retest the top of this triangle, retest the value area high before we actually, do get a move up to all-time high. That's very possible. And, clicking through the time frames of Market Cipher, 3 hour is pretty much identical to the 4 hour. Not seeing any signs of weakness so far. Here on the 2 hour, it's very similar, but momentum, already started getting a move to the downside. It looks like, it might slip back down below the 60 line. So that, could be at least some sign of weakness coming, pretty soon on the higher time frames. But, again, money flow is looking pretty bullish. The 1 hour time frame, money flow still looking bullish. Momentum has slipped below the 60 line though. And, it seems to be taking another local turn to the downside. It started to cut off right here. as the VWAP started curving to the upside. So, there was potential for a green dot here, but that flopped over. And now momentum is continuing to the downside. And money flow also kind of starting a little move to the downside here. And, as we get to the lower time frames, you'll see that the money flow movement to the downside is becoming more intense. On the 30-minute, we actually had a bit of a divergence as price put in a higher high here. Momentum did not diverge. Momentum put in a higher high, very aggressive momentum wave here, but money flow did put in a lower high. And right now it's, continuing to the downside, getting another turn down. Actually is putting in local lower lows compared to this low, and, potentially soon compared to this low, we may start to put in lower lows in money flow. And on the 15-minute, we also see money flow starting to take a turn to the downside. And here we did actually have a momentum divergence as well, a bit of a local one. It's a divergence within a single momentum wave, right? We just kind of saw momentum get a pretty drastic turn to the downside as price came up to put in one last higher high here. Price makes a higher high, momentum makes a lower high. We even got like a green dot, red dot thing here before it continued lower. But, even that was not enough to convince me of entering a short here. Really, what was, the deciding factor was the change of market structure that we got. We got a local, lower time frame change in market structure here as we broke the last higher low. And with a pretty aggressive move to the downside, too. It closed pretty far beneath this higher low. We didn't just, peak down below and then continue up immediately. So that change of market structure was sign number one to start looking for shorts for me. And if I go over to the Bybit chart, this is actually the chart I was looking at when I entered. I used this fixed range pull to, kind of help convince me of entering a short. And what do we see after we broke market structure right here? Well, we got a retrace. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn on the developing value area for this and also developing point of control. Why not? That's just so I don't have to, keep dragging this back and showing you where stuff was at the time. I will make this a dashed line, actually. So there we go. We got the developing, value right here. I know it looks a little messy, but we came back up. We started finding some resistance on the point of control. We reclaimed the value area low right here. And, I was looking for signs to start entering in this area, but I wasn't seeing great entry criteria in this area. And basically my plan was to see if we would continue this downtrend. And if we did, and if we came back up for a lower high, hopefully there would be better confirmations on that lower high, because really I wasn't seeing much in this area. But as we came down, we lost the value area low again. We found resistance on the point of control. At least, once it moved down, we started finding resistance on it. But we came back up for one last high. We retraced back up around the point of control, and we took out the local liquidity. So everybody that shorted in this area with very tight stop losses got taken out. And we immediately started falling back down below the point of control again. So, at this point, we had two tests of the point of control for resistance. On a higher time frame, we didn't close above it. On the 30, we just wicked it. And then we immediately came down and started closing below the value area low again. So once we did that, that was my sign to say, all right, it looks like at least this local range that we're forming right here is showing signs of weakness. We're seeing money flow on some lower time frames continue to get a move down. We're unable to break above the point of control and stay above it. So I decided to start building a short position. I entered once we lost the value area low once again. And, something I liked about this was that we got a little wick up from the value area low. And basically that wick didn't produce anything. We didn't see another immediate push up towards point of control. Pretty much the next candle came back down, closed around the value area low. The next one came down and closed lower. So, that showed that this little attempt at buying at the value area low was basically a failed attempt. We couldn't hold it as support. We immediately just lost it. Now, granted, we got above it with this candle. Hopefully we start losing it again with this candle, because if we start, kind of rotating back up, then, I think there's still a decent chance we start rotating higher in this range. This was a reason that I entered this as a starting position. It's because there isn't, great confirmations on this, at least not for what I would call a very confident entry with a very confident invalidation. I am definitely seeing signs of weakness here. A confident confirmation here is a break of market structure. We can expect a lower high, But how do we know that the lower high is not going to come up and stop me out? Still putting in a lower high relative to this high before, continuing the trend. So, I didn't see the confirmations to make me think, all right, this high is definitely going to hold. But I kind of had a feeling based on a lot of, less confident confirmations, you could say. But all things considered, I decided to start building a short position here because if we start losing this range to the downside, I think there's a chance we might just get an aggressive move down. Looking at the price action that we have previously, we have a very aggressive move to the upside here. We know that a move back down through this area can be just as aggressive. Below that, there's a bunch of lower or higher lows, so there's potentially liquidity down in this area. Granted, this move did take out the liquidity from over here, so we might have already had the liquidity run. Maybe this liquidity down here doesn't have to get run. This might be, what you would call smart money liquidity, where they got in once the other liquidity got taken out. But nonetheless, there's still higher lows here. There's more higher lows down in this area. And, all things considered, I just kind of have a gut feeling that we might dump from here. Now, is my position going to get stopped out prior to that happening? I don't know. I can't answer that. But, I chose a pretty reasonable stop loss, which, gave me a good balance of decent risk reward and, a pretty loose stop loss where even if we come up and SFP this high again, there's a decent chance that I won't get stopped out. My stop loss is above value area high right now. And, I think if we start getting a move convincingly above value area high, then we're probably coming for this high over here anyway. So that is a logical stop loss in my opinion. And essentially, my plan for this is if we do now continue this downtrend and we do, basically break lower, and if we come back up, then I will look to add to the trade in this area. Because at that point, we can at least expect if the trend's going to continue that we're not going to take out this high. And if we just blast to the downside, well, I'm already in at least, half of my position. Now, checking on the progress of my trade, we are kind of wicking up from the value area low. That's not a great sign. Let's check the lower time frames and see what's going on. So, we're seeing kind of this outward curvature with momentum. That is kind of a reassuring sign. This more times than not will kind of curve back to the downside. Seems like VWAP's kind of on a downturn right now, but, it's a little iffy. We see that outward curve kind of thing on the 3-minute as well. But, we are seeing money flow kind of get a move to the upside. At least it was having a clear move to the upside here, but, pretty weak move in the green. Now it's kind of starting to put in lower lows. We'll see if this wave will put in a lower low or not. But, yeah, basically the general idea of this trade was, hey, we're finding resistance on the point of control. I think we're probably not going to break convincingly above the point of control. That's pretty much the thesis for this short, and I think it's more likely that we break down from here rather than going up. And if, we do reclaim the point of control and actually hold that support and move higher, then, there's a good chance that this idea is invalid. And, potentially I end up closing out my trade if we do find support in this area. Maybe I just get stopped out. But what I'm probably going to do is I'll start editing this and, I'll probably make an update before I post this. I'll record a little bit more in a little bit. We'll see how this trade's going. And maybe I'll be able to add to this. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Alright, so it's many hours later. I'm just about ready to go to bed here, but I want to make a quick update before I do. And we'll go over what has happened. So, yeah, we have broken down out of this range, at least on the time frames that I think matter. We did, I believe, wick the low of the range. It was pretty close on the 45-minute. We tried to come up and close as an SFP. It was still technically a break, but, I wouldn't really consider this over here 45-minute structure. There was one candle down to the low, so on the time frames where basically we broke structure, we have continued it now. We came up for a little retest, and instead of adding to my position, I actually opened a new trade here. And the reason for that is, I didn't want to, add to this trade because I'm not keeping my invalidation here. I'm actually going to move my stop loss for this trade down a little bit. And, I got a local confirmation in this area. I'm not going to go over that, but, basically I was able to take a tighter invalidation, more local trade here. So I opened another short trade with a 0.5% risk, the same risk that I took with this. So, right now I have a total of 1% risk for the short, but I'm actually going to de-risk these trades here. Hopefully I can de-risk this trade as well. I've been staying awake waiting for us to hopefully continue structure and get a move past this low. After that, I would probably move my invalidation to probably a little bit above my entry. If we do that and don't come much higher than this value area low, like right now we're kind of holding resistance on it. So I'd probably put my invalidation slightly above that. And for this short, I could honestly do the same. I could put my stop loss at entry for this trade, because if we start reclaiming the value area low, start getting a move back within this range, then I really don't want to be in this short anymore. But I just didn't want to move my stop loss down too early, because, as you saw right here, we got back above the value area low, even found some support with a couple of candles here. We bounced off it a little bit, but we did eventually lose it again. And, after back testing it, and if we continue lower at that point, I would feel more comfortable putting it there. So that's kind of my plan right now. And I'm probably not going to upload this when I was planning to. I was planning on uploading this maybe tomorrow. I already got most of it edited. But, I kind of want to see how this idea plays out. So, I'm just going to probably track this trade over the next, day or two. And hopefully it ends up playing out, because I think there is potential for us to, really reverse from here. All right, so it's now the next morning, and a few things have happened with my trades. Number one, I hit a TP on this one trade. I set my TP to, trigger at this high, and we pretty much wicked right down to that, a little bit past it. We still have this liquidity remaining below this wick, so I'm still holding out for lower. I think, ultimately there is potential for us to really retrace in this larger range. We have some CME gaps below us. We have that CME gap from a while ago that we didn't completely fill. We also made a new CME gap last weekend, which should be coming in right around here, right around 67,000 something. So I am still holding this short. I haven't taken profit on that yet. My first TP is at these lows. Just because of how poor the risk reward is, I had to set a further TP for that. And with my more local short, I actually just added to it. So I was looking at this retracement that we got here. We saw some local signs of weakness with this divergence as we came up to SFP the high. We then lost the higher low, came up for a retest. I added in this area. It was a little sketchy because we just wicked right up, but once we started falling back down below POC, I decided to add to the trade, and I moved my stop loss down pretty significantly. And if the stop loss for this short gets hit, then I will close out the trade with a slight profit, but I am risking a decent amount of the profits that I took out down here, so I'm really hoping that we can continue to the downside from here. Looking through Market Cypher, there's some conflicting signs on the lower time frames, but we are seeing money flow start to come out on some of these higher time frames. On the 4 hour, it's coming out a little bit. Momentum actually slipped below the 60 line, put in like a lower low, so that is a good sign for higher time frame stuff. The 2 hour money flow is starting to get a pretty drastic turn to the downside, but we are potentially printing a trigger wave down below the 0 line. It's been a while since we saw a momentum wave down in this area. It's a desert down here. But we are seeing, a bit of an outward curve with this VWAP. That's, a little reassuring. And we are seeing money flow start to take a turn to the downside. Momentum has put in a lower low, so I'm hoping that, even if we kind of print a green dot here, honestly, in that case, my trade probably would get stopped out because it looks pretty easy to sweep this liquidity back up to my stop losses, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to de-risk this trade. I think it does look pretty easy to stop me out. Even if we are intended to dump lower, we may end up ranging here for a little bit before we do. Going back to the Bybit chart, we are retesting a pretty key area right now. We're retesting the triangle, the value area high as well. So this is a pretty important area to hold as support. We are below the value area high right now, and we even, kind of came up to back test it. So that's looking good. Hopefully we continue lower from here. I don't really want to see this reclaimed or anything. And let's check the volume on Bybit as well. Let's see what that's looking like. So on Bybit, it's looking a little different. Value area high looks a little higher up, and the point of control is actually where we came down to test. I don't think that's the case over here. The point of control is lower on Binance. But yeah, regardless, we're running into some support levels, and they definitely have potential to cause a rotation, which would stop out my trades. But this 1 hour money flow is a bit reassuring. We saw money flow take a drastic turn to the downside, and the momentum wave bottomed out down here, but VWAP came up, or the yellow oscillator. I know people don't like calling this VWAP because it's not a VWAP. I'm just used to it. But the yellow oscillator is now curving back to the downside, maybe showing that we print a red dot here. And we can see some of the lower time frames. Money flow is putting in lower lows. 30-minute, the 45-minute money flow just got to move into the red. 15-minute, it got a pretty significant move to the downside. Now locally, it's kind of turning down again as we're topping out with this momentum wave. And overall on the 15, money flow put in a lower low compared to what it has done recently. So I think there is some reason to think, based on Market Cipher, that we may continue lower from here. But, again, on the 5-minute, we saw money flow start to curve back to the upside. I am liking how this money flow is starting to curve over immediately after coming into the green again. And if that starts to cross back over, that is a good sign for my short. And yeah, price attempted to get a little move back to the upside, but we are kind of getting smacked back down again. So I added to this short right here. My new entry is somewhere right around here, and I'm looking to TP around these local lows again. And I'm not taking a TP on this trade until we take out all this liquidity over here. That's the status of my trades. All right, so that addition to my short worked out very nicely. I took 2 TPs, so basically what I added to the trade up here, I took out right here, and I closed a little bit more out of this short as we took out the low because we started to wick up. I wasn't going to take the chance just in case we SFP'd it and reversed because my stop loss for this trade is so close to this current range that we're in. A rotation could have easily stopped me out, so I closed what I added to the trade here, and then I closed another 25% of the remaining position there. And I have locked in already more than I risked on both of these trades. So I already locked in more than 1%. And in unrealized profits, I got 2 to 3% right now. And it appears like Bitcoin is attempting to stop out all of these guys. I'm expecting that we'll probably get a pretty quick move down to my TP of this trade. And truthfully, since we are losing such key support right now, I don't really think it's going to stop right here. Maybe we get a little bounce from that area, but ultimately I am kind of expecting lower here. So it seems like my shorts are working out pretty nicely. Now, I am still going to be taking profits along the way down because the way that we are coming down seems very easy to run this liquidity. Maybe we don't run it till later, though. I'm hoping we can get a significant move to the downside before we decide to stop out all the people shorting up here, including myself. But, yeah, right now this idea is working out very nicely. Can we hit this TP? We're getting very close. Hang on, let me check. All right, that is a TP hit. So now I have just about 2% locked in. I closed half of this trade right here. And I think it's pretty safe to say that we are not SFPing this local range low. So I think this is a continuation of structure. Even if we retrace, I'm expecting a lower high. I think there's still reason for us to go lower. So there we go. I mean, it's a successful trade nonetheless. Even if we reverse from here, my stop losses for these trades are at entry. This trade stop loss is slightly above entry because, technically, even though we put in a lower low here, we still could SFP this high, still continue structure. So I left my stop a little loose. I'm risking not even 1/4%, not even 1/8 of the profits that I locked in. It's probably significantly less now that I actually took some more profits. So yeah, I mean, my stop loss is a little above my entry for this trade. I just put my stop loss at entry for this trade. And yeah, this could end up being a runner. And I am going to be leaving. I'm not going to be at the computer today, so I'm going to set some take profits for these trades. At least the more scalp-like trade. This one, I'll monitor. If I want to take profits at a significant level, I will, but my TPs for the second short are going right about here and right about here. I want to take profits around these significant lows. Even though there is still, this low down here, this low sweeped out a bunch of liquidity from, over here. Even this wick got taken out, so I am pretty much targeting this low for, this whole liquidity. I think the majority of it ends here. There probably are stop losses down here too. Maybe we get a move down to there to fill the CME gap, but my preset limit orders are going at those two areas. And that's probably all of the limits I'm gonna set. There is the CME gap that's coming in right up here as well, so it may be a wise idea to have an alert set right around that CME gap. And if we start losing lows like this, then we could rotate all the way down to the range low. There is, this liquidity down here that is still remaining. Then we have the range low. So I'm just gonna leave these take profits right now, and I'm gonna have alerts set. So if I want to manage the trade later, I can from my phone. All right, it is Wednesday morning. Gonna make another quick update on my trades. It's another crazy day for me. I'm not gonna be home all day, so I will make an update now while I can. And we have just come down to fill the CME gap. If I pull up the CME gap indicator, we just filled that first one. We do still have a bit of one remaining over here. And here's what I'm thinking. My take profit is set somewhere down here. I don't remember where it was. I guess I deleted the line. Put a horizontal line and see what liquidity is remaining. We actually didn't take out that low quite yet, so we do still have some lows locally below us. But I noticed that as we got this move to the downside, we are forming some divergences on some time frames, and given the fact that price is wicking to the upside, it's making me want to consider taking profits early. So what I did, I already took profits a little early. I already shaved off some profits from this trade. I basically cut this limit order in half, decreased the size of it, and marketed out what I took off this limit trade, or limit order rather. And I think I'm going to do the same thing again. I think I'm just going to market out what is remaining in that limit order right now, take out the profits, because, one objective is done. We're seeing some bullish signs as we close the CME gap. And, while there is some liquidity remaining below, I think we probably got like a majority of it out here. Sure, there's a little remaining locally. Sure, there may be some below this low, below this low, below this low, but, this was just such an aggressive move to the downside to fill that CME gap. And we're starting to get a wick, and we're starting to see bullish divergences. So I think it's time to shave some more profits off. I'm not going to close the trade out entirely, but what I am probably going to do, at least with what's remaining in this second trade, is I'm going to move my stop loss down to probably somewhere around here. I don't really want to break significantly above this high now. And I may even consider doing that with the other trade as well, because, same thing applies. We have been building up liquidity to the downside this whole time. I think that we are pretty much preparing for an easy sweep back to the upside whenever Bitcoin decides that it wants to. So, yeah, price is continuing to wick up. I'm going to go ahead and shave some more profits off. And yeah, that's about all I wanted to say right now. I'm going to continue managing this as the day goes on. Whenever I get a chance to check my phone, I will. And, I am looking for long trades as well. I'm not going to, rush into anything, though. If I see a opportunity, then I will take it. But for right now, there is still a chance that we continue lower. Just because we have liquidity built up to the upside doesn't mean we have to take it right now. We can save that for later. So, yeah, that is the update. All right, it's later in the day, still Wednesday, and I'm going to wrap this video up here. What I ended up doing is I just let this trade get stopped out. If I put my stop loss to where I said I would, I only would have locked in another, 0.3, 0.4%. and I just opted to, see how it goes. I was waiting to see, if we would get a convincing break above these lower highs. Originally, we got an SFP, then we kind of started approaching it kind of slowly. I was thinking, all right, we might reject from here, we might not. And, while I wasn't paying attention to the charts, we just got a straight shot up to my stop loss, which was at my entry. Or, I guess a little bit below my entry. Maybe this is a little inaccurate, whatever. So that trade got stopped out. This trade is still open at the moment. I'm just going to leave my stop loss at entry where it is. So as of right now, I locked in about 3.5% relative to what I risked. I risked 1%. So, each of these were a 0.5% risk. If I had taken 1 TP for both of these trades, literally closed it out at the exact bottom, this one was about a 10 risk reward with a 0.5% risk. That's, about a 5% gainer, and this would have been about, 2.5 give or take. So, best case scenario with these trades is I could have locked in 7.5%. But with taking partial profits along the way and, leaving some to run just in case this idea continued to play out, which there was definitely potential in that, I'm happy with a 3.5% gainer on this. And, although I'm not optimistic about this trade staying open, I think it probably will get stopped out of entry here. There is potential that maybe we end up rejecting from here and continuing down, and maybe I can end up eking out a bit more profits from this. But, either way, I'm happy with a 3.5% gainer, especially, being some trades that were during a very busy time for me. It's been a very busy week for me. I have not been home really at all. I've been managing this trade from my phone. Yeah, all in all, I'd say, it was a successful trade. Now, right now, I am hoping that maybe I'll get an opportunity to long. I'm hoping for some kind of a retrace, maybe to long from this little range of price action or really anywhere in this general area. I'm hoping that we get a retracement before we start attacking all of this liquidity up here. So far, we really only took out the liquidity from these highs, so there's still a decent amount remaining. And yeah, that pretty much does it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed. It was a nice video going over, an idea that I had for a short trade. I think it was a good representation of how I can kind of be flexible with how I entered this. Originally I wasn't super confident in my entry just because I didn't get great entry criteria in this area. And, even though I did get really good entry criteria on this trade, honestly, it would have been better if I just waited and then taken a, full 1% risk with this trade. That probably would have been more ideal, but I instead wanted to enter with half the risk because, there's a chance that I would not have gotten an opportunity to take this trade. Like I said, we could have literally just shot straight down, filling this, basically void, this fair value gap. I think this was a good example of me being flexible with my trade ideas. I had an overall idea, I found a way to capitalize on it, and I then found a better opportunity to capitalize on it. And because I only took half risk on this trade, then I was able to take another trade without really stressing about it. Because even if both these trades got stopped out for a loss, it still wouldn't have only been a typical loss for me, a typical 1%. So thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment. All that helps to support the channel, and I appreciate it. And I will see you all in the next one.